something that we haven't touched upon that is extremely important for happiness is gratitude. It's very hard to be unhappy while you're being grateful.
Welcome to Radically Loved Radio. I am your host, Rosie Acosta, yoga teacher and teacher trainer, mindfulness coach, speaker, and creative writer. I am also the founder of radicallylove.com, a website where you can go for more information about yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and lifestyle advice. On this podcast, we talk to people within our health and wellness community that are creating content through the ritualistic practice of yoga, meditation, or overall mindful living. We hope to create value in your life so that you can achieve your highest potential and live a radically loved life. To stay in touch with us, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Rosie Acosta and on Facebook at Radically Loved Rosie. You can sign up for our newsletter on radicallylove.com to stay up to date on future workshops, retreats, and latest podcasts. This podcast is brought to you by Four Sigmatic. I have been waiting for months for this product to come out, and it's finally here, the Four Sigmatic Mushroom Focus Shot. Four Sigmatic has always believed in seeking energy through nutrient-dense foods, sleep hygiene, movement, and hydration. So when they came up with this product as an alternative to all those gnarly energy drinks that are out there, I was so excited. This is the first ready-to-drink product that promotes focus and energy without all the gnarly ingredients. You can sip half of the bottle of lion's mane and guayusa with a powerful pineapple taste from only real ingredients. No artificial sweeteners or flavors are allowed. I can drink half of the bottle in the morning and then half in the afternoon, and it doesn't make me feel weird and jittery in the afternoon. Go to foursigmatic.com and use the promo code RadicallyLoved, that's RADICALLYLOVED, to get a special discount on all the Four Sigmatic products. Back to our show. Hey listeners, we need your support. Help us by subscribing and rating to this podcast. Send us a snapshot of your review or comment, and we will send you a very special Radically Loved gift. Send your comment to info@radicallyloved.com. You can also click on the show notes here on this podcast for more information. If you want to be part of our community, please click the link to our private Facebook group on the show notes of this particular podcast so you can be the first to hear of upcoming trainings, retreats, and special Radically Loved events. Thanks so much for listening. Karen Guggenheim is the founder and chief executive officer of the World Happiness Summit. The World Happiness Summit is dedicated to increasing awareness of happiness as a life choice, a human right, and an enabler of human development and social innovation. This summit brings together game changers and researchers focused on how to improve gross national, social, and personal happiness. Stepping into this role is an evolution of Karen's extensive career arc, which includes editorial board work for the Miami Herald, strategic communications, and integrated marketing expertise with C-level executives, as well as worldwide brands, and personal passion for making a happier world through helping create endeavors that teach happiness practices one person at a time. I was fortunate enough to meet Karen a few months ago while she was in Los Angeles, and I was so completely enamored with her passion and dedication to bring this incredible group of people and this community together to create value for people all over the world. This passion project started from a place of loss, and I was really excited to talk to Karen about all of the obstacles that she overcame and why she thinks it's so important for us to really learn how to rewire the way that we do things. Habits begin to really shape how we can experience happiness and joy in our lives. I'm so excited to share this episode with you. Here is Karen Guggenheim. I'm so happy to have you here. There's so many things that I want to talk to you about. First and foremost, I'm truly inspired by the work that you do and the adversity you've overcome in your life, and being able to create such a beautiful community around happiness and making it accessible and facilitating all of this knowledge and science that you're bringing to the world. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for recognizing it. We started? No.
Oh yeah, we're in it.
Oh, we're on.
You're
Okay,
on.
great, fantastic. So, Rosie, one of the things that you touched upon that I think is really part of our mission, and certainly on a personal note for me, is the part of making it accessible. It's to make the science accessible to people, right? Because these amazing individuals have been doing this research and have been dedicating their lives literally to this field, and they come from, Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, London School of Economics, University of Miami, etc. And they have this amazing body of work that we've realized that the public doesn't really know about it to a large scale. And so one of the things that's really key to the World Happiness Summit is to bring the practical approach to the science. So to give individuals access to as many tools as possible, and to explain to them how these different habits can create sustainable happiness, right? It's not that you're going to be happy when something bad happens to you, right? You're going to have emotion around that, and it's really important to deal in reality, right?
Yeah.
But how do you build resiliency? How do you bounce back? How do you frame it? What are the stories that we tell ourselves? It's really amazing when you come to the summit and you listen to the different experts. It gives you such a complete and holistic guidebook on how to live, really. And because how do you deal with adversity? How do you deal when life happens? It's not that everything good's going to happen to you, but how do you bounce back, and how do you build your children to be resilient, or your workplaces, or your communities? I really think that this line of thinking is the next evolution of human thinking and processing. I think that it will open up so much of our mental capacity that is not yet available to us, because we're so stressed, right? And we're in strife, and we get tired, and the negativity is extremely taxing emotionally and mentally and physically.
Yes.
And so I think that once we can kind of turn it around and take that leap of faith. And what we have found is that leap of faith is the science. The science is kind of what gets you from one side of the swimming pool to the other. People are kind of attached to their ways of being and ways of thinking, even though they might feel really bad. And many times they do. If you look at on a global scale, life dissatisfaction has never been at a higher point, even though we've never had more peace and more global financial prosperity. But we're dissatisfied. And I think it has to do with how we hold on to mindsets that are negative and that are not leading us to where to where we can maximize our potential. And our potential, I believe, like Sean Akers says, he defines happiness as the joy that you feel as you're moving towards your potential. And I think that it's really important to be able to tap into who we're meant to be. And who we're meant to be is not, full of anxiety and depression and fear. I think we're meant to be beings who are kind of liberated, at least in the way of thinking, and as far as engaging in ideas that bring us to flourishing and to being able to maximize the whole mental capacity that we have in our brain. I think that science has shown us that when our brains are compromised under stress, or anxiety, we're not able to learn, as well as we are when we are in what positive psychology calls the flow. And
Yeah.
so literally that part of your brain is not accessible to you. So it's not, it's not a touchy-feely thing or a fluffy thing. It's really serious.
Yeah.
It's really serious because you're not being able to utilize your whole mental capacity.
Yeah, yeah, I love that that's part of the ethos that you created is to really build something that's sustainable and that has been tested so that we have actual tools to implement into our lives, which I think is wonderful. And I like that you're speaking to the fluffy factor, that sometimes people think that it needs to be that I think it's way more than that, and I think that it has way more to do with our own ability to evolve and to use more of our mind capacity to achieve those states. I want to backtrack just a little bit. You spoke about resilience, and just to give the listeners a little bit of insight as to how you started this happiness journey for yourself.
Yes. So it actually was from a place of unhappiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in great personal challenge, and we had a family tragedy. We lost my husband 5 years ago, quite suddenly, and there was a period of completely disorienting and a lot of pain associated with that, obviously, for myself, my children, our friends, our family members. And for me, it was, I didn't know about the science of happiness. I didn't know about positive psychology. I have a background in psychology, and but it wasn't positive psychology. And so I do remember the choice, though. The choice, I very, very soon after my husband passed away, I remember that after 21 years, I was like, I'm done here. I've done everything I needed to do, and I'm okay with not continuing at this point.
Mm.
And I remember my children, and I remember that to me, at that moment, I tapped into the mother's love, which is quite powerful, and I knew that I had to live because of my children. And I made a choice at that moment that if I was going to live, and I had decided that I was going to live happy, that I didn't know what that would look like, but it was a choice that I was going to find out, because otherwise, it would be pointless. I would be doing nothing for my children. I didn't want the legacy of my husband, who was an amazing individual. He was a doctor, and he was just such a force, such a positive force. I didn't want a legacy of pain and negativity. And so I decided that I was going to be happy. And I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know how to create that. To me, happiness was if things external to me happened that went my way. So
Mm-hmm.
if I got a good parking spot when I was happy. If I didn't, then I wasn't happy. Or somebody called me, or things went the way I wanted, I would be happy. It's interesting. It was like a little boat in the ocean, and just being kind of guideless in that regard. And what I did is that I decided to look for purpose and meaning. And I decided to copy what happy people do. So if I were happy, what would I do? So happy people, get dressed and get out of the house and have a conversation. And so 4 months after he passed away, I was starting an MBA at Georgetown University, and I was flying back and forth from Miami. And I had wanted to go to Georgetown, but I got married very young, and I decided not to. And so I went to Georgetown as kind of an homage to my husband,
Mm-hmm.
that, he was extremely hardworking person, dynamic, focused. I think the word genius gets thrown around a lot, but he was quite impressive. And so I did that. I did that as kind of a testimony to all the lessons that I had learned from him, and as an example to my children. right? And on resiliency and to choose things that are good for you. And I later learned that the research shows that, we do things before we are that person that does those things. For example, um, Paul Dolan talks about him and being a gym guy. So he started to go to the gym before he was a gym guy, and then he became a gym guy. So I became happy because I copied what happy people do, and then I became happy. It wasn't I didn't wait for happiness to come to me to become happy. I don't know. It sounds complicated, but it's really quite simple. But it does require effort. It requires effort, and it requires discipline, and it requires mindset shift, and do that through habits. And so, that what we were talking about earlier on how happiness is not it's not fluffy. It's you have to apply yourself, right? You have to tackle the different areas of your life that contribute to happiness, and then your happiness will increase. For example, Tal Ben-Shahar, who's one of the leading experts, and he'll be again on positive psychology, and he was at Harvard, and he taught the most popular class in the history of Harvard. He'll be again at the summit. And so Tal talks about, the research that says that if you tackle happiness head on, it actually decreases your happiness. It causes anxiety because you start analyzing, why am I as happy as yesterday? Why am I going to stop being happy later? What is my happiness level? And so forth. But if you tackle it indirectly, so if you look at your spiritual life, intellectual relationship, physical well-being, and emotional well-being, right? You then, and you take care of those areas of your life, you become happier as a whole, right? So you're not tackling it directly, it's indirectly. And there are other things that really tap into this to make a sustainable practice. I was telling you about storytelling. So there's some stories we tell ourselves or that we've heard growing up that people tell us, right? Whether it's a teacher or a parent that didn't know any better, or a family relative. And then you have that disc in your head that plays on and on and on. But you can substitute that with positive stories that we can tell ourselves, not based on imagination or lack of reality, but that, using reality and just changing the recording in your brain, and then creating a new narrative. And that's also kind of what I did, is that I decided to create a new narrative to the event that had happened, right? That was outside of my control. I had a control of the narrative that I would tell myself, again, taking into account that painful experiences are painful, right? And that's something that's very important that we talk about in the summit. We're having Maria Sirra. She's going to be talking about resiliency. She's a fantastic speaker on the topic. We talk about pain. We talk about negative emotion. And then how do you go beyond that? We're also talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness is so important to happiness, to personal happiness. And the value of that, and then how do you forgive, and the steps to, because they're actual steps,
Yeah, and that's what I'm curious to ask you too about, how forgiveness plays a role in this, especially with the studies that they're finding with how stressed we are in our society. With we have so much input, right? There's so much information, external information. With technology and all the things that are coming in. I'm curious as to what your take is on, I guess, two things, the level that stress plays in our lives and how it affects our happiness, and forgiveness.
Well, one thing, let me clarify here. I am not an expert, okay? We put on this platform for these people who are the world's greatest experts. I mean, to listen to them is a completely life-changing event. So I can share some of the things that I have learned from them, and I'm happy to do so. So in the area of forgiveness. Fred Luskin, who is out of Stanford, and he runs the Stanford Forgiveness Project, and he deals with like victims of 9/11, et cetera. I mean, like really bad things have happened to people, and I heard him speak, and it just completely it changed my life, and because it's very matter of fact and very non-judgmental. If you want to be happy, there's certain conditions that you need to have in your life, and that you need to, many that you do have control over and that you can create. And so forgiveness taps in to happiness directly. I mean, that doesn't mean that you need to engage with people that have unacceptable behavior, right? Mm-hmm. Or to have relationships with people that have hurt you. But forgiveness is something that taps into yourself. It's your mental energy, your life force, that you can decide to turn to release a person, to truly release and forgive a person, whether even if you tell them to their face or not, just to have that act upon yourself frees you up to then experience so much more of human emotion, of positive human emotion, as opposed to be reliving again. Taps into the stories that I was telling you about earlier. You relive these negative stories, and this, you let a negative event fester within you. And so that also increases stress, anxiety, maybe depression, And so we want to make sure that we create space for happiness, right?
Yeah.
We need to create the space. And that's the thing that, speaking and meeting with people from around the world, I found that largely people are happiness curious, whether they are a bit skeptical, they're curious, right? And so they hold on, though, to all these negative, they want it, they want to believe it's possible, but then they hold on to this whole negativity bias. And so our brains are actually wired for negativity, because we don't need happiness for survival, by the way. Mm-hmm. And we need to look out for danger for our survival. So we have a negativity bias that we have to kind of work against in our own brains, right? And then you mentioned the news and so forth. And so I used to be a journalist, and so and certainly there's that tagline that says, if it bleeds, it leads.
It leads, right?
Right. And so we're sensational, and negativity sells. And if you think about it, for example, if somebody opens the door for you, or somebody gives you a parking spot, or somebody lets you go in front in in a line, you're not going to call 5 friends and tell them that happened. But if somebody calls you a word that we don't want to say here,
yeah.
or cuts you off, or you are on speed dial,
Mm-hmm.
Calling 4 people, telling them that, can you believe this happened, and she did this to me, or he did that to me, and then it goes on and on and on, and again goes into the story, right?
Yeah.
And something that we haven't touched upon that is extremely important for happiness is gratitude. It's very hard to be unhappy while you're being grateful. So to have a gratitude practice is really significant, and to actually write it down. So if you could write, 3 things every day that you're grateful for, and they don't have to be huge. It's just about creating a habit and new neural connections in your brain. Because of the brain's neuroplasticity, you can create new connections, and so you can become a positive person. Martin Seligman, positive psychology, talks about learned optimism. You don't have to be one of the people that you see, they're so sunny, they're so bright, everything. There are some people like that, and it's beautiful to see it. But I have to say that I was not one of those people at all. And so you can learn it. And what I find surprising, and I was one of these people, so it's even in myself, is that we can totally see the connection that from what we eat and our exercise level, our physical bodies are going to look healthy or not, right? We totally understand that. But it's such a stretch for us to really capture that what we ingest in our brains, right, and it's going to have an impact on who we are, our emotional state, our physical state. Like, that seems so surprising.
Yeah.
That, deciding to look at the positive outcome of a situation, of any situation. Tal Ben-Shahar talks about um, things do not necessarily happen for the best, but you can make the best of things that happen.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, to me, that's really impactful, really, really impactful. And the other quote that he says that I also tell myself a lot is, give yourself permission to be human. So there's also that idea that people that are practicing happiness or are involved in this are going to be, always on, or again, not experience disappointment. And even if it's a little thing, it could make you feel disappointed. But then, again, you have the habit to tap into, like, for example, in your case with yoga. I'm sure it has. I mean, it helped me very much when I was dealing with hospital settings and et cetera, because I'm a practitioner as well. I've been practicing yoga for almost 20 years. And the breath, I mean, the conscious breath is just such a powerful thing. And it's scientific. It's been going on for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now science has proven that the amazing chemical reactions that happen to our conscious breathing, to our emotional well-being and psychological well-being,
Yeah.
plus physical. So we begin the summit every day with yoga and meditation, so that we're prepared, best prepared, to listen to the experts. The content is very rich. We group people into tribes, each with a certified coach acting as a facilitator, so people can really understand the material and start to kind of customize it, because we want to give as many tools as possible, kind of like a buffet, and then you pick the ones that best resonate with you, so that by Sunday afternoon, when the summit is over, you're left with a toolbox that you can start kind of playing around with and seeing what works for you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love being able to implement, things that have been measured and things that work. I come from a conditioned belief that um, you won't be happy until dot dot dot, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we
Mm-hmm.
won't be happy until we make X amount of
Mm-hmm.
money, or until we move out of this environment, or we won't be
Mm-hmm.
happy until
The next
you
election.
right. So
It's always moving the guidepost.
yeah, so can you speak to that type of conditioned belief a little bit?
So, so absolutely, and I think it has to do with also our Western way of thinking. But Sean Aker, who was actually Tal Ben-Shahar's teaching assistant at Harvard, and he's a happiness researcher. He talks about, he does a lot of research on success and how we think that success presupposes happiness, but it's actually the other way around, and it's been proven that happiness fuels success. It optimizes your potential, as an individual in the workplace. The research is amazing on the benefits of in the corporate world, for example. I mean, from sales to employee engagement, the productivity goes up over 30%. There's 125% less burnout, 51% less turnover, 44% higher retention, innovation, creativity, fewer sick days. I mean, it's on all levels. To me, it's happiness is preventive medicine, really. And the return of the investment is so significant that it's troubling for me to understand why you wouldn't implement it in an organization. And we haven't even talked about schools, for
Oh
example.
yeah.
Positive education is amazing. Again, the results are there, the studies are there. Wonderful work out of the University of Pennsylvania on interventions that were around 20 minutes a day over an academic year. And when you look at at that over the control group, you see that the children actually, when compared to the control group, they went up in academics. They felt better, et cetera, et cetera. We're not even going to talk about that. But if you're looking at what traditional society or society traditionally measures, which is academic performance, they went up across the board one academic year, and they were not given any academic intervention different from the control group. It was just, practicing mindfulness and doing some of the positive psychology exercises and so forth. So it's amazingly impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of these modality, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, positive psychology, all of these modalities that really help make us a empathetic, loving, and kind, compassionate human being should be implemented in our system when we're young, like when we're kids. I feel like it would make for a different society, it would make for
Absolutely. And
for
our teachers also need to, to have the tools so that they are less stressed, because what happens also, happiness is contagious and stress is contagious. So there's studies that have been done on kindergartners, that they do the saliva swab, and if the teacher is stressed out and comes into the classroom and just speaks to the children, you see that the cortisol level in the saliva goes up in the kids because of the interaction with the stressed out teacher, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so imagine if you're having this cortical, shots into your system every day since you're 5. So that has a physical consequence by the time you're 40 and 50 years old, right?
Right.
Um, so it's really important to give attention to this. The summit is an event, but it's really the World Happiness Summit WOHASU has become a movement. So it's a global movement around giving significance on this topic. Why should we talk about this? Yes, it makes us feel good and everybody wants to be happy, but there's a lot of potential to really make significant and lasting change in societies, not immediately, now, and for the future. And so it's so important to create this roadmap for how societies can best thrive, and optimize resources. So not only personal potential, but also resources that are in scarce in scarcity can be best optimized by concentrating on what we mean by happiness and what the experts mean by happiness. Another really key aspect that to me was when I heard Isaac Prelitensky, and he's the former dean of the School of Education at the University of Miami. We had the event at the University of Miami, by the way. It's our official host. And he does amazing work on mattering. So the relationship between you mattering to others or to the system or others mattering to you. And that to me was really impactful. I mean, it's common sense when you discuss it, but the fact that others, for optimal well-being, that others need to matter to you and you need to matter to others, and the importance of that relationship is amazing. And the research around that is quite significant.
Wow. I've that even just hearing that somebody's doing that is so incredible. I'm so
Right.
happy that I'm just like
Yeah.
because if you think about it, like we don't think about those things, and I think that's why
Absolutely.
having events like this, especially this one, it's really creating a foundational platform for a community to build, to continue to spread these ideas, and these not just ideas but techniques and studies, so that we can actually begin to see the change and create that ripple effect. So what is the big vision for WOHASU?
Well, I can tell you some of the things that really, excite me. I feel like we're a bit ahead of the curve here with what we're doing, but I see the impact not only from people. We had people from 40 countries and 45 US states coming to the summit. There was a lady coming from Australia. She had never been to America, and she came to the World Happiness Summit. We have people Hong Kong, Africa. So the excitement is there. I'm really also very hopeful that corporations will start to really back this, in a significant way, that they will come and say, how can we align with you? We think this is significant. We want to be part of this. This is part of our mission, and we're here, and we're putting, we want to make a footprint, a large footprint in this, and be a driving force. So I would love to have organizations and corporations that are vanguards on this topic, and they will really take it on, and they will make the investment in financially, but also, and more importantly, as stakeholders and as a voice in leading the way, that this is really important. We're creating a corporate happiness council to kind of spearhead this approach. And then the ultimate goal really is for the science of happiness to become commonplace, that we go to so many different cities around the world and corporations, et cetera, that it becomes commonplace. So we'll have a summit because it's fun and we like to gather together, but there won't be really a need, because we'll just all know about it. Our children will be brought up a different way. They'll be educated a different way. We'll relate with each other in a different way. Societies, it'll be part of government. We'll have ministers that will take care of really being mindful of implementing policies that will support civic happiness, right? That corporations will do it beyond, corporate social responsibility policy, but really have it become a pillar of what they are and who they are as an enterprise. So that to me would be very exciting, that it becomes commonplace, like brushing your teeth. You don't have to have a summit to talk about the values of brushing your teeth, right? So that's what I would like to see, that it just becomes part of life.
Well, I can sit here and talk to you about this forever, and my plan is to definitely go next year. I'm really excited about that. And we
love to have you there, Rosie.
Yay!
It would be fantastic. Yes.
We have a special gift for our listeners here in a moment, but I just have a couple more questions for you. I created this platform as a way for people to come together. It's this idea that we are radically loved by God, source, whatever higher power of your understanding, that the universe works for us and not against us. And it's this idea that we are all radically loved. And so the final two questions for you are, number one, how do you feel radically loved? And two, what do you radically love?
How do I feel radically loved? Oh my goodness. Okay. I guess that would be tying into mattering. So the people that are really important in my life, when they really take time to recognize what matters to me, and then they are able to and it's not necessarily a big thing. It's a little thing. It's the little things that they notice you. That somebody that you really value values what you value, or notice something that can be the easy things. I think that we forget the easy things because we take them kind of for granted, and so we're waiting for these large events like a birthday or like a graduation or something like that. But when somebody notices that you like, I don't know, a flower, and then you walk by and you see, oh, there's the flower that you like. That type of noticing to me is very intimate, and it's kind of radically. I think in those moments I feel radically loved. That somebody noticed what matters to me. And it could be in the little tiny details, because it's so easy not to see that. And so to have somebody really notice you, I think is expressing love. And the way that I radically love, I really like to make people happy, you know. So I really try to show my love by making people happy, you know, that I can do things, and then to see that smile, or to see somebody that was struggling, and to make a recommendation, or to offer something that is coming from my deepest sense of love for that person. And sometimes it doesn't come out in a way that looks like it's a traditional, you know, way of loving, but it is something that that I try to do something good and positive, and with the hope of making them happy.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen, for, again, everything that you do, and for everything that you've done, and your vision for the world. And I know you're out there. If people only knew the actual amount of work that it takes to like put something like this together, and it's providing so much value. And I am saying thank you on behalf of every single person on this planet that can benefit from everything that you're doing, and that hasn't said it to you. Thank you for all of it, for the work that you're doing. It's incredible, and I know it's going to change the paradigm of the planet.
That's amazing, Rosie. Thank you for noticing and pointing that out. And I just want to say, you know, it's a team effort, and you know, my partner has been very supportive in doing this, and the people that work for us, and the partners, our associates and speakers. So it's really a lot of people that have come together to co-create this with us, and now you're part of the tribe too, Rosie.
Yay, I know. So for the people that are listening that want more information, World Happiness Summit 2019 is coming this March. Karen, do you want to tell the listeners where they can go to, you know, contact you, or go to the organization? Where can they go for more information?
Absolutely. So it's March 15th to the 17th in Miami. And you can go to www.worldhappiness.com, and you can get more information there. You can see summit recap. You can see video. We have a lot of videos up from the past event, so you can take a look at the look and feel and what the experts are talking about. You can get the tickets there. So the links are on Eventbrite. And something else that is really significant about the summit is that you get to interact with the speakers. So the networking effect is quite huge among participants, and the interaction with the speakers is something that people really enjoy as well. And we hope to have your listeners coming to the summit.
Yes. So everyone, they were so kind, Karen and everybody at World Happiness Summit, to give all of you 15% off a 3-day summit pass. So all you have to do is type in the code radically happy. That's RADICALLYHAPPY to get your discount, which thank you so much for doing that, Karen. That's so awesome. So for those of you listening, if you go to the show notes and click the info link, everything will be on there, everything that we discussed, including the link to the World Happiness Summit and all the information that we spoke to about today. So thank you so much. Thanks, Karen. You're the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rosie, and wishing everybody well. And we hope to see you in March in Miami.
Is there something missing in your life? Is there something that you want to do in the world to create an impact, but feel that it's overwhelming? So many of us walk through life feeling unsatisfied, overwhelmed, tired, and desperate for a deeper connection, but don't quite know how to achieve the things that we want in life. Join us this spring at the Dunsky Castle in Scotland for 7 days of yoga, meditation, and yoga nidra, all focusing on finding your life's purpose. During our time together, we will learn how and when to take action, how to lead from our heart and not our head, how to break up with our inner critic for good, and dive deep into learning about desire and discipline and how this creates a purposeful life. For more information, go to radicallyloved.com, or you can message us at info@radicallyloved.com, subject Scotland. We'll see you soon. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am so excited to continue to do this. Please share this with your friends. Email us, message us on Instagram at Rosie Acosta or on Twitter at Rosie Acosta. Subscribe on iTunes, write a review. We love doing this, so please help us continue to keep this podcast going. Thanks for listening.